All right, I wanted to go over a couple of these. I didn't want to go over the entire review because I didn't know if that was really completely necessary. I'll probably go over 1 and 3 because those are different types of problems. And then honestly, like I think the rest of this kind of follows all of that, and then I'll go over the story problems. So for number 1, again, you're using the Pythagorean theorem. Across from the 90-degree angle, this is your C, so that's your A, that's your B. So then plug into the Pythagorean theorem, you do x squared plus 7 squared equals 10 squared. So x squared plus 7 squared is 49, 10 squared is 100, subtract 49, x squared equals 51, and then to undo the square, you take the square root, and the square root of 51, you get x to equal 7.1. And if this side is 7.1, that makes sense because the hypotenuse is still the longest side. So that's good to go. For number 3, go across from the 90-degree angle. That is your C. There's your A. There's your B. So this one we're solving for C. So plug in the Pythagorean theorem. 8 squared plus 14 squared equals Z squared. 8 squared is 64. Plus 14 squared is 196. That equals Z squared. 196 plus 64, you get 260. Then you take the square root of that 260, and you get your hypotenuse, or your Z, to equal 16.1. And then you just kind of take a step back, make sure that makes sense. And it does because this is the longest side, and 16.1 is bigger than 14 and 8. So the rest of these kind of follow that same idea. You had to figure out, are you solving for C or are you solving for a leg? Which is why I'm not going to go over all the rest of them. You can check your answers and go formative. And if you have a specific question, please reach out. But I do want to chat about these story problems. There needs to be a little space right there. It says, Kristen and her family left their campsite for a hike. They hiked 5 miles west and then 2 miles north. How far were they from their campsite? So I see north and west, so I'm going to draw like never eat soggy waffles. So they went 5 miles west and 2 miles north. And this is where their campsite was. So they want to know, well, what's that length right there? So there's your 90-degree angle. You're solving for C in this case because that's across. So we'll say A is 2, B is 5. So you do 2 squared plus 5 squared equals C squared. 2 squared is 4. 5 squared is 25. 4 plus 25 is 29. And then you take the square root of the 29 to undo that square. And you find that they are about 5.4 miles from their campsite. Next one, it says a television screen may be described in terms of the diagonal measure. If a TV screen is 20 inches wide, and 15 inches high, what is the length of the diagonal? So there we go. Go across from there. You are solving for C in this case, so these are your A's and your B's. So we do 15 squared plus 20 squared equals C squared. 15 squared is 225. 20 squared is 400, and that equals C squared. Add those two together and you get 625 equals C squared. And then you're going to take the square root, and you find that the diagonal is 25, or you could say 25 inches, something like that. The last one here, oh, this is cheesy, I'm sorry. It says the lawn in front of Pythagorean Junior High is in the shape of a rectangle. So we've got a rectangle. And it is 24 meters long and 10 meters wide. How many meters shorter is your walk if you walk diagonally across the lawn rather than walking along 2 sides of it? Well, if we walk along 2 sides, we do 24 and 10, so you do 34 meters if you walk along 2 sides. So if we walk along the diagonal, well, we got to figure out what that length is. That's the diagonal, that's your C. So if we do 10 squared plus 24 squared equals C squared, 10 squared is 100, 24 squared is 576, that equals C squared. Add them together, and then take the square root. So square root 676 is 26. So if we were to walk diagonally, it would only be 26, which is great, but that's not what they're asking. They want to know how many meters shorter would your walk be. So you take the 34, subtract your 26, and it actually would be 8 meters shorter. I like that question. You might want to make sure you take a look at that one. All right, quiz is tomorrow. Please make sure you are showing all of your work. I need to see what you're plugging into the Pythagorean theorem. Make sure that your answers make sense. It's not a very long quiz, so we're not giving you as much time online to take it. I believe that we are only giving 30 minutes because it should not take you very long with how short it is.